Feeding your dog seems simple, doesn't it? Scoop the kibble, pour it into the bowl, give him a pat, and call it a day. You've done it like that for years. He's never complained. And if he finishes the bowl, that means everything's fine. Right. But here's the thing. What if you've been making small mistakes every single time you feed him? Not because you don't care, but because no one ever told you the truth. Today we're going to walk through 10 dog feeding mistakes that may look harmless on the surface, but could silently impact your dog's health, his energy, and even how long he lives. Some are small, easy to fix. Others, they're deadly. There's one mistake, number 4, that has sent thousands of dogs, especially large breeds, into life-threatening emergencies. And the worst part, it's not about what you feed. It's about when you feed. If you've ever fed your dog before a walk, you need to hear this. And if you've trusted food labels, used the same bowl every day, or just guessed the right portion because he looks okay, then this video might just open your eyes to things no vet ever warned you about. Don't worry, you're not alone. Most owners don't know these things. But after today, you will. So let me ask you, if one small change could protect the one who's protected you for years, would you make it? Let's find out what that change is starting now. Mistake 1. Feeding only once a day. You probably think feeding your dog once a day is just fine. Maybe he's always eaten that way. Maybe he doesn't seem to mind. You give him one big meal and he clears the bowl. No leftovers, no mess. Done. But here's what no one tells you: that single meal might be putting unnecessary stress on his digestive system every single day. When you feed your dog once in 24 hours, his stomach has to handle a huge volume of food all at once. Imagine going all day without eating, then suddenly having to digest a heavy dinner in one sitting. That's not comfort. It's overload. His stomach works overtime, and once it's done, it's left completely empty for the rest of the day. That empty state. It's not just hunger. It can cause acid buildup, irritate the lining of his gut, and leave him feeling uncomfortable without any way to tell you. Have you noticed him licking the floor, pacing at night, or vomiting yellow foam in the early morning? Those could be signs his stomach is producing acid with nothing to digest. You didn't do anything wrong. You just didn't know. Until now. The good news is, this mistake is easy to fix. Just split his food into 2 smaller meals, one in the morning, one in the evening. Same amount overall, just spaced out. You'll be surprised how quickly his digestion evens out, how his energy stabilizes, and how his mood improves. So let me ask you, if the fix is that simple, and the benefit is that big, why not try it tonight? Now, speaking of bowls, let's talk about the next mistake that has nothing to do with nutrition, but everything to do with his mind. Mistake 2. Always using a food bowl. Every day, you pour the food into the same bowl, place it on the floor, and watch him eat. It's quick, it's clean, it's what everyone does. And it works, at least that's what it looks like. But have you ever wondered what's going on in his head while he eats? Or what's missing from that moment? Dogs weren't meant to eat like this. Not originally. Back before they were snoring at the foot of your bed, or sitting shotgun in your truck, they had to work for their food, sniffing, tracking, chasing, solving problems. Their brains were as active as their bodies. And now that mental workout has vanished. The food appears like magic, same time, same place, same bowl. No challenge, no joy, just routine. Now you might think he doesn't seem unhappy. But what if he's just bored? What if that boredom turns into frustration, into chewing on furniture, barking at shadows, or pacing when you're trying to sleep? Not because he's bad, but because he's craving something you didn't know he missed. What if I told you that changing the way you serve his food, not the food itself, could light him up from the inside out. Try hiding the kibble. Scatter it in a towel and let him sniff it out. Use an old muffin tin with tennis balls over each cup. Let him figure it out. You're not spoiling him. You're giving him back something nature took thousands of years to build his instinct to hunt, to solve, to work for reward. So here's the question. Would you enjoy the same meal on the same plate every single day for 10 years? Neither would he. And if changing how he eats could change how he feels, isn't that worth exploring? All right. That one was about the mind. But the next mistake. It's about the body and what happens when you give too much love, in the form of too much food. Mistake 3. Overfeeding. Without realizing, you love your dog. That's not up for debate. You show it in the way you talk to him, pet him, sit beside him. And yes, sometimes in the way you feed him. A little extra scoop here, a few treats during the day, maybe some leftovers, because those eyes are just too hard to say no to. It feels like kindness. But what if that kindness is quietly weighing him down? Overfeeding isn't always about the main meal. It's the tiny extras, the training snacks, the table scraps, the crunchy little bits handed out just because. Each one feels harmless. But they add up. And dogs, especially as they get older, don't burn calories like they used to. What starts as a full belly becomes extra weight. And extra weight. It's not just about size. It's about stress on the joints, the heart, the pancreas. Did you know that canine diabetes is on the rise? That overweight dogs are at higher risk for arthritis, heart disease, and even certain cancers? And here's the twist. Most of their owners had no idea they were overfeeding at all. So ask yourself this. Do you actually measure how much food goes into that bowl each day? Do you subtract the treats you've already given? Or do you just eyeball it? You don't need to starve him. That's not what this is about. It's about balance, about love that also protects. Start with the feeding guideline on the bag, then take a good look at everything else he eats between sunup and bedtime. Because the truth is, a dog at his ideal weight doesn't just live longer, he moves easier, breathes better, and enjoys more days by your side. And if a measuring cup is all it takes, isn't that worth it? Next up, a mistake that has nothing to do with how much, but when you feed. And trust me, this one can be deadly. Mistake 4. Feeding before walks. You wake up, he stretches, wags his tail, waits by the bowl. So you feed him. Then clip on the leash and head out like always. Seems like a good routine. But what if that order, just those few minutes, could mean the difference between a normal day and a rushed trip to the emergency vet? Feeding before a walk sounds harmless. But when a dog eats especially a big meal, his body shifts blood to the stomach to help digestion. Now, imagine taking him for a walk, or worse, letting him run before that process is finished. His stomach is full, jostling, working, and now under pressure. That's when things can go wrong. Have you ever heard of gastric torsion? Most people call it bloat. It starts when gas builds up in the stomach. But in severe cases, the stomach doesn't just swell, it twists. Blood flow cuts off. Organs shut down. Dogs collapse. And it happens fast. Minutes can make the difference. You might be thinking, that's rare, right? But here's what matters. It's most common in large, deep-chested dogs, and it's often triggered by exercise right after eating. If you've got a shepherd, a retriever, a Great Dane, even a senior lab, this is the part you can't ignore. So ask yourself, when do you feed right before walks? Do you rush through morning routines without waiting? It's okay. You didn't know. But now you do. The fix is simple. Walk first, then feed. Or if feeding first is unavoidable, Give it at least an hour before any movement. That small shift in timing could save your dog's life. So, what time is dinner tomorrow? And now that we've talked about timing, let's look inside the food bowl. Because the next mistake might be hiding in the fine print on the label. Mistake 5. Not checking ingredients. You pick up the same bag of kibble every month. Same brand, same price, same promises printed on the front, Real Chicken Complete Nutrition Vet recommended. And because it's worked for years, you trust it. But have you ever turned that bag around? Have you actually looked at what's inside? Because here's the hard truth. Not all dog food is created equal. Some of it is built more for shelf life than for health. And what sounds good on the front label might not hold up when you read the fine print. Have you ever noticed words like meat meal or byproducts? Do you know what they mean? They're not just meat. They're what's left after the real meat is stripped away. Bones, feathers, tissue. You wouldn't eat yourself. And then there are preservatives. BHT, BHA, ethoxyquin. Chemicals that have been banned or restricted in human food, yet still show up in your dog's bowl. You're not a scientist. You're not expected to memorize every term, but you are his guardian. And the ingredients you choose go straight into his bloodstream, his joints, his kidneys. So next time you're holding that bag, ask yourself, can you pronounce what's in it? Do you know where the protein really comes from? Is that chicken actually chicken? Or just leftover parts from a factory line? It only takes a few minutes to read a label. Look for real meat as the first ingredient, chicken, beef, salmon, not vague terms. Avoid artificial preservatives. Choose foods that list fruits and vegetables you recognize. Because the food you trust should be worthy of the one who trusts you most. Now we've talked about what's in the bowl. But what if I told you there's one more thing just as important, and that's matching the food to your dog's age? Mistake 6. Not adjusting food. Based on age, you've been feeding him the same food since he was a pup. He liked it then. He still eats it now. So you figure, why change what works? But here's the thing about dogs, just like us. Their bodies change with time. And what used to work might now be wearing him down without you even realizing it. Puppies need different fuel. Their bodies are growing fast bones, stretching organs, developing. They need more fat, more protein, more phosphorus. If you're still feeding adult kibble to a 5-month-old pup, he might be missing crucial support for those early months. And on the other end of the leash, if your best friend is getting gray around the muzzle, moving slower, sleeping more, his body isn't processing food the way it used to. Digestive enzymes slow down. Metabolism drops. Extra calories, they stick. And all that unused energy turns into fat strain and silent damage. So let me ask, do you know when your puppy becomes an adult, or when your adult becomes a senior? Most people guess. Few ever ask. But missing that window could mean years of improper nutrition. A good rule: puppies should switch to adult food when they reach about 80% of their full size. Seniors, usually around age 7, need formulas with fewer calories, easier to digest ingredients, and joint support built in. It's not about fancy brands or price tags. It's about giving your dog what his body needs right now, not what he needed 5 years ago. He's still your same companion, still looks at you the same way. But inside, things are shifting, and the right food at the right time could mean more healthy years by your side. Now, what if we told you the next mistake isn't about bags or brands at all, but about what's cooking in your own kitchen? Mistake 7. Not considering homemade meals. You've thought about it, haven't you? Looked at that dry kibble in the bowl and wondered, is this really the best I can give him? Maybe you've seen those videos. Dogs eating cooked meals, meat and rice and vegetables all fresh. And for a second, you imagine doing that too. But then the doubt kicks in. What if you mess it up? What if he doesn't get enough of something important? What if it's too expensive, too time-consuming, too complicated? So you stick with the bag. Because it's easy. Because it's safe. Because it says complete and balanced on the label. But here's the truth. Homemade meals don't have to be complicated. They just have to be thoughtful. And more owners are making the switch. Not because kibble is evil, but because they want control. They want to know exactly what's going into their dog's body. No mystery powders. No chemical names. No wondering what meat meal really means. Have you ever tasted what your dog eats? Would you want to eat it every day? If the answer's no, maybe it's time to consider something better. You don't have to do it all at once. Start small. Cook a little chicken. Add some rice. Mix in carrots or sweet potato. There are simple online calculators that help you balance the nutrients based on his size, breed, and age. You can even mix it with his kibble at first. Half and half, just to start. Because feeding isn't just about convenience, it's about connection. And there's something powerful in giving your dog a meal you made with your own hands. Now, if you think food is love, let's talk about speed. Because the next mistake, it's not about what you feed him, but how fast he eats it. Mistake 8. Feeding too fast. He hears the food hit the bowl, and in seconds, it's gone. No chewing, no pausing, no slowing down, just gulp, gulp, gone. Maybe you've smiled thinking he must really love it. But have you ever stopped to wonder why he eats like that? And more importantly, what it's doing to his body? Fast eating might look harmless, even cute. But it can be a red flag. When dogs eat too quickly, they swallow air along with their food. That air builds up, causing bloating discomfort, and in some cases, vomiting. You ever seen him cough after eating spit-up foam, lick the floor minutes later like he's still hungry? That's not just hunger, it's his gut reacting to the speed, not the portion. Some dogs eat fast because they were raised in shelters or had to compete for food. Others do it out of habit. But the result is the same, a digestive system constantly under pressure. And here's the question. If you knew he was hurting from how fast he eats, would you slow him down? Thankfully, the fix is gentle and simple. You don't need fancy tools. Just spread his food out. Use a licking mat. Scatter kibble on a towel or baking sheet. Anything that makes him pause, sniff, solve, chew. You're not just slowing his meal, you're calming his body and his mind. Because feeding isn't a race. It's a ritual. One that should leave him satisfied, not struggling. So next time you watch him eat, don't just see a fast tail. Watch his mouth, his breathing, his pace, and ask yourself, does he look full or frantic? Let's keep going. The next mistake. It's got nothing to do with how he eats, but when and how often. Mistake 9. Inconsistent meal times. Some mornings you're up early, he gets breakfast by 6. Other days it's 9. Sometimes dinner's right after your own. Sometimes it's hours later. And maybe he waits patiently. Maybe he doesn't complain. But here's the thing he notices. Every time. Dogs don't wear watches, but they know the rhythm of your life better than you do. Their internal clocks are sharper than you think. And when you shift their feeding times around without warning, without reason, you're not just changing a habit. You're disrupting their entire system. You ever feel off when you skip lunch or eat too late? That drop in energy, the irritability, the restlessness, dogs feel that too. And over time, irregular feeding can lead to spikes in hunger hormones, stress-related behaviors, and even digestive issues. You might notice him pacing before meals, whining unexpectedly, or vomiting bile early in the morning. That's not just sensitivity, it's confusion. So let me ask you, do you have a set time to feed him, or do you just fit it in between your own schedule? He doesn't ask for much. A full bowl, a gentle voice, a little consistency. That's what builds trust. That's what helps his body regulate. Same time every day gives his stomach a rhythm. It teaches his brain what to expect. It makes his world feel safe. And for a creature who gives you everything, his loyalty, his energy, his quiet presence, that's not too much to ask. Now that you've thought about when you feed, let's talk about something that often goes unnoticed, especially with older dogs. It's not about timing. It's not about ingredients. It's about something far more subtle and easy to fix. Mistake 10. Forgetting to hydrate food for seniors. He still goes to the bowl, still finishes his food, still looks at you with the same eyes. So you assume everything's fine. But have you ever stopped to notice how he eats? Is he chewing slower, drinking less, leaving the water bowl untouched for hours? These are small signs, but they're trying to tell you something. As dogs age, their sense of smell weakens, their teeth wear down, their kidneys become more sensitive. And yet many senior dogs still eat the same dry kibble they've had for years, hard, dehydrated, and demanding more from their bodies than you'd think. You ever tried eating dry toast with a dry throat? That's how it can feel for him. But he won't complain. He'll just keep eating through the discomfort, because that's what dogs do. And here's where the mistake happens, not out of neglect, but routine. You keep feeding the same way, not realizing his body isn't absorbing moisture like it used to. Dehydration sneaks in, digestion slows, organs strain, and what looks like he's doing fine might just be him adapting to something he shouldn't have to. So here's a simple question. When was the last time you added water to his food? A splash of warm broth, a drizzle of water. Just enough to soften the kibble, make it easier to chew, easier to digest. It brings out the smell, makes the meal feel new, and most importantly, it hydrates. Quietly, effectively. Because sometimes caring isn't about doing more. It's about doing softer. Now that you've seen all 10 mistakes, there's one final thing left to talk about. Not food, not timing, not labels, but the deeper reason behind all of this. Why feeding right isn't just about health, but about something far more human. You've just walked through 10 mistakes. Some big, some small, some you probably didn't even know were mistakes. But now you do. Maybe you've been feeding him once a day, because it fits your routine. Maybe the bowl hasn't changed in 10 years. Maybe you've given him an extra scoop now, and then thinking it was love. Maybe you've trusted the label, ignored the age skipped, the water rushed the walk. Not because you didn't care, but because no one ever told you otherwise. And still, he stays by your side. Every morning, every evening, still looking at you like you're his entire world. Because to him, you are. But here's the part that matters. Feeding him isn't just keeping him alive. It's how you say, I see you. It's how you say you matter. It's how you say, without words, you're not just a dog. You're my family. Have you ever thought about that? That every time you fill his bowl, you're doing something sacred. That the way you feed him is one of the clearest windows into how much you love him. He may never speak, but his body does. It tells you when he's thriving. It tells you when something's wrong. And now that you know what to look for, you'll see it. In the way he breathes, the way he moves, the way he rests after a meal, instead of pacing in discomfort. So here's my question. What will you change first? Will you soften his food tonight? Will you try feeding a little earlier or a little slower? Or with a bit more curiosity about what's really in that bag? Will you start measuring? Will you switch up the routine, not because you have to, but because you finally understand what it means? You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. Because in the end, it's not about 10 mistakes. It's about one truth he gives you every piece of his trust. And now, with just a few small changes, you can give him more years to keep giving it. That's love. Quiet, daily, unseen by most, but everything to him. If this video helped you see even one thing differently, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who loves their dog like you do. Or just leave a comment below with the one mistake you realized today. Not for me, for the next dog owner who's still in the dark. And if you're ready to go deeper, click on the next video now. You'll learn 30 things your dog wishes you knew, but can't say out loud. Trust me, he's been waiting for you to know.